I'd like to call the meeting to order, and if everyone can if we could have a moment of silence, please. Please rise for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, and justice for all. In accordance with the provisions of the Open Public Meeting Act, a public notice of this meeting has been sent to the board members, all district schools, the Herald News, the Suburban Trends, the Record, the Messenger, West Milford Town Hall, the County Superintendent's Office, the Board Attorney, Cablevision of Warwick, and West Milford TV 77, and posted in the Administration Building. Copies of the board meeting calendar resolution were provided to all local media, town hall, township library, and all district schools. Roll call, Mrs. Francisco.
Mr. Stillman.
Here.
Mr. Conklin.
Here.
Mrs. Stevenson.
Here.
Mrs. Dwyer.
Here.
Mr. Garino.
Here.
Mrs. O'Brien.
Here.
Mr. Ovchinsky.
Here.
Mrs. Romeo.
Here.
Mrs. Van Dyke.
Here. We need a motion for executive session.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the following resolution. Resolved that the Board of View goes into executive session for approximately 30 minutes for the purpose of conducting a grievance hearing. The executive session minutes will not be released until such time as the privilege of confidentiality is no longer applicable.
I need a second.
Second.
Dave? All those in favor? Oh, roll call. Oh, no, okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we will return in approximately a half an hour.
Andy, you want to have a report?
Mrs. Romeo.
Here.
Mr. Ovchinsky. Mrs. Stevenson.
Here.
Mrs. Dwyer. Here. Mr. Stillman. Mr. Garino.
Here.
Mr. Conklin.
Here.
Mrs. O'Brien.
Here.
Mrs. Van Dyke.
Here. Mrs. Francisco, special reports?
Tonight we have Tom Curry, I guess he's all by himself, from our audit firm. And he was going to present the audit at the last board meeting. We accepted the audit report and accepted the findings.
Yep.
But Tom had conflict and was not able to come, but he's here tonight to explain the report and answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Barbara. Well, thank you for having me tonight. You received two documents. One is the black covered. That's the AMR, the Audit Management Report. The bigger one is the CAFRA, which is Comprehensive Annual Financial Statement. And what I like to do is go over, it's actually one exhibit in here, which I go over pretty much every year, and that's Exhibit C1 on page 74. And what this is the budget as adopted by the board. And it's on the budgetary basis because every year I tell you that you're under the GAAP basis of accounting, generally accepted accounting principles. There's three different fund balances in here. But this document, the budgetary basis, is what you make your decisions upon when you put together the budget. Page 74, it starts off with the revenues. The revenues as adopted, the modified amount, and the realized amount or the actual amount, and any excess or deficit. Halfway down the page starts the expenditures, which go on for 4 pages. So if you go to page 78, this is where your fund balance is. Now, if you remember, every year I talk about the fund balance. It's made up of multiple components. So If you look on the very bottom where it says recapitulation, we have restricted part of fund balance. So your fund balance was 9.9 million. Of that 9.9 million, 1,491,000 is your capital reserve. That's for expenditures for capital items, bigger capital items than what you would put in the budget, like roofs and additions to classrooms and clean up classrooms. You have a maintenance reserve for maintenance, of course, of $700,000. This kind of smooths out any high maintenances in certain years, so that you don't have a fluctuating tax rate. It just helps smooth out if you do have any maintenance items. Excess surplus of $2,971,000. What that represents is the state of New Jersey has the calculation for a 2% cap. And it's a long calculation, which is actually in the black book. You can't exceed it based upon certain things, like if you didn't use your extraordinary aid. Anything over that amount is considered excess surplus, which is a good thing, because I'd rather have excess surplus than none. Excess surplus for this year, which was generated for the year at the end of the year, June 30th of 2020, will go towards your 21-22 school year, mandatory by the state, which is basically like anticipating fund balance to offset taxes. It was something the state put in to curb expenditures, but actually it wound up to be an amount that offsets taxes, and it's pretty stable. So it's like you would put it away yourself. Well, the state's kind of forcing you to put it away, but it's a good thing. A 2.9 million is roughly what you put in the budget every year. So it works out okay. The next line, excess surplus designated for subsequent years. That was what was generated at the end of 2019. That's going into the budget we're in right now. The next line item is encumbrances, 630,000. Those are purchase orders as of June 30th that we know we're going to expend in July and August of this year. So we put that money aside and it gets spent. You have designated for subsequent years' expenditures, $913,000. What that represents is extra money besides the extraordinary, the excess surplus that you took out of your regular fund balance to balance this year's budget that we're in right now. And then what you're left with is the 2% number of $1,755,000. That represents your 2% cap. So it's made up of multiple layers. So if you really ask me what your fund balance was, it would be the $1,755,000. Everything else is pretty much designated for a specific purpose. I know that was quick. I mean, this document's huge, but that's the meat and potato. This is really, these pages are the best to look at if you want to see what the district did. You could look at any one of these CAFRAs in the state of New Jersey. If you go on to the state, New Jersey DOE, you just Google New Jersey DOE CAFRA, and it'll bring you to the website, and you can look up any district in any county and compare yourselves. You just find this page with the other audits, and you can compare yourself with other districts. I do it a lot, but that's me. I get bored on a Sunday. So, so really, that's all I have financial-wise. I just wanted to go over, if anything, your debt service, your bond payables. We have one issue right now. The school bonds of 2016. They mature July 15th of 2029. Right now, as of June 30th, your balance is $5,625,000. We roughly put away, the principal amount each year, roughly 18 to 19 was $425,000. 19 to 20 was 450. So it's around that amount. And again, they come due at the end of 2000 or the middle of 2029. You do have capital leases, that's for buses and things, but those really don't factor in. You just pay principal and interest on those. So really, that's most of this whole document that makes sense to anybody, because it's very, when the state wanted to do GASB 34, Governmental Accounting Standards Board 34, and put us to GAAP accounting, generally accepted accounting principles, it changed everything. And with GAAP, we have to wait for the government GASB 75 and GASB 68. We have to wait for GASB 65. All the pension numbers that we have to wait for the state. We used to be able to crank these audits out, present them. Now we have to wait for the state to give us numbers on pensions and post-retirement benefits, and it just slows everything up. Normally the audits are due like December 5th. It got extended this year till February 2nd, or I forget what the date was, but it got extended because the state, because of COVID, because the auditors for the state couldn't get in and do their work. So it got a little more extended. So this is the AMR. Basically, it gives you the comments or recommendations that we had. There were 2 this year, which on a Richter scale of 1 to 10, 10 being bad, they're like a 2. It's more house cleaning than anything. 90% of my comments or recommendations for any school district are student activity related, cafeteria related, or the application for state school aid, ASSA related. So if you want it, you can follow me on page 3 of the AMR. So this one happens to be payroll. In one instance, out of all the employees, in one instance, an employee was included for reimbursement for TPAF FICA and was not eligible for reimbursement. So what that basically means is that the state of New Jersey picks up the board share of FICA. The employee pays 7.65%. The board has to match 7.65 normally. But what happens is the state picks that up for certified teachers. So in the software system, there's a little button that you click when a person comes in. And if it's a custodian, you unclick it and say, no, that person isn't entitled to it. In this case, it was a very gray area where it was a teacher that came in that wasn't full-time, that was just there temporarily, and I think it just got you have to untick that box, and it wasn't done. So it was just that's the software system. You can't change it. So it was just one instance that we found. So moving on, this is on page 9. So these are the application for state school aid, which is a snapshot of your students as of October 15th of every particular year. Now, it's a very, especially a district this size, it's a very complicated process to get the numbers right. I mean, it's very hard. You have all different categories, you have everything. So in this case, it wasn't ASSA related, it was actually DTRS related, which is the District Report of Transported Resident Students. So in this one case, there were multiple instances where regular education students were reported on the DTRS as special education without special needs transported. So it was just the wrong category. And the categories eventually, I don't know if it's ever going to apply, depending on the category, the state was supposed to give us different money, depending on, number of regular students, number of special ed students, special needs children. And it all was supposed to be tied into state aid. That never happened. We've been doing this for 10 or 15 years now, and the district has to put these numbers together, and I have to still audit them, even though they're not really tied into our state aid. If you ever want to see the categories, it starts on page 11, and it goes on for 3 or 4 pages, and that's basically the ASSA report. The district, the district gets a single audit. So we start off at generally accepted auditing standards, which is the floor, and being that we collect taxes, we go up to generally accepted government auditing standards. Generally accepted government auditing standards is a higher level of an audit. That requires us to look at the internal controls of the whole district and make sure there's no weaknesses. So that, and it's pretty hard in a district. I mean, municipalities are more prone to theft and deviations than a district, than a school district. But again, we still are required to look at the internal controls of the district, because that's generally accepted government auditing standards. Then you go up to the single audit, which is the highest level of an audit you can get. What that means is that if you have expenditures in federal or state grants over $750,000, we have to test certain programs, and we have to do compliance testing. That means we make sure we go and look at pretty much everything that has to do with that program. Federal aid was about $1.6 million, of which 890 was IDEA. So normally we pick the bigger guys. We look at salary and wages, we look at compliance, make sure we get a guide that tells us how to audit IDEA. And then your state aid was about $16 million, so we have to pick programs out of that and then test those. So the district gets, a district this size gets the highest level of an audit you can get. So we come in with what we call professional skepticism, and it's the opposite of the judicial system, where you're innocent until proven guilty. So we come in with professional skepticism and say everybody's guilty until we prove you're innocent. So that's the way we go into an audit, and then we proceed. The district, West Milford is a large district, and we look at each district differently depending on the size. So to have these few comments is pretty good over all these years. And Barbara, Billy, the whole staff in the district, it was very hard this year, being that we can only have a certain amount of people here. We were picking up stuff, we were dropping stuff off. So besides the education side, for the auditing side, it's pretty difficult too to get through it. But we did get it on time. The audit was on time. So that's all I really have, unless there's any questions.
Does anybody have any questions about the audit? If not, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Kudos, Barb, to you and your staff, as always.
It's like 4 months, right?
He'll be back, right?
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, Dr. Animo?
Pull the screen down if you guys want to.
Let me just stay behind it.
All right, good evening, everybody. I'm going to try to stand by the microphone because I feel with the mask, my voice might not be amplified enough for the cameras, but I am going to turn my back to the camera, so I hope that's not an issue, Nate. It is? All right, I'll try to swing over here a little bit. How was that? Okay. Sorry, Jed. All right. So we're here for our preliminary budget tonight. Thank you all for coming. Thank you all for your support over the past, throughout this whole budget process. We're not quite done yet, but we're getting close to the end. Again, thank you to our Board of Education, volunteers that we say that every year, but it needs to be said over and over again. These are volunteers who help serve their school district and the community. And the amount of time they put in is what you see at the board meetings times about 10. So there's a lot of work that we do before the meetings, after the meetings, a lot of reports to read, a lot of paperwork to go through, and it is greatly appreciated. So the budget is very conservative in my opinion. It actually goes down year to year, which is a trend we've had in West Milford. Our budget has been decreasing for the past few years. The total budget and the general fund are just about 1.4 reduction over last year. Our administrative costs are lower than the regional limit by about, let's say, $350 per student. Multiply that times about 3,000 students, and you're looking at about an extra $1 million that is spent in the classrooms compared to some of our neighboring districts. So we put our money into the classroom where it directly helps children. And by classroom, I certainly mean the media center, the athletics, the clubs, everything. That's not administrative costs. Curriculum highlights, Mr. Novak, we have a couple pages here, if you could, thank you.
First item we wanted to talk about was, in language arts. I've spoken in this room probably every year for the last 5 about our 5-year plan for our professional development with our growth in Readers and Writers Workshop. This is year 5 of that 5-year plan. However, it's been a different sort of year. So we are anticipating that next year we're going to proceed with year 5 as it was planned for this year. The work that we've been doing has been very, obviously I don't have to go on about how different it has been. But also part of that is a period of review. When you implement a plan over a few years, we do every year when we have throughout the 5-year plan is we reflect and we take feedback and we, judge how the previous year went. And, with our literacy consultants, with the work that our staff has been doing, we've been able to adjust a little bit each year. And we are anticipating that our work from now until literally, probably standing here for this presentation next year, we want to know what our next 5-year plan looks like. Early thoughts are that we are having a strong emphasis on writing and our writing curriculum and the things that we can do to enhance our writers across the continuum, K-12. But we know from so many of the things that we do that it begins in the elementary schools. So that's the first bullet point. There's a few items on all of the bullet points on both slides where it talks about review of some of our programs, review of MACP and ELA, review of word study program. That refers to what you would find in the budget, some of our summer curriculum hours, as well as support from our supervisory staff in doing this work. We've completed our work and our implementation of the Sadlier word study program in grades 3 through 5. So we're at a point now where we take a look, see how we've progressed in that, and decide if that's meeting all the needs that we have for those goals in grades 3 through 5. One of the tones I also wanted to talk about across the board that might not necessarily be on the slide is that we are currently in the first year of 6th grade at Macapan. It's very different than what we thought that year would look like when we were planning it. But we are in the process of taking a look at our, comparing our original plans that we had last year at this time when we were talking about this major shift in the district, and then taking a look at what actually played out. And we've been having those conversations, and we're pretty proud of what we were able to accomplish with 6th grade having them, having that first year being moved into the middle school, the things we were able to do through scheduling, through courses, through management. But we are taking another look because although we were able to functionally bring those kids in and put those courses in place that we wanted to, we just want to make sure that we are going back to the drawing board and taking a look at how we intended it and making sure that we're moving forward in that direction. The next item with math, we are anticipating partnering with Conquer Math, which is a very well-known professional development group in northern New Jersey. You can talk to any math supervisor around or mathematician, and you ask about Conquer Math or Nancy Schultz, and they'll know who you're talking about. So we are anticipating beginning that process with grades 3 through 4, and then also to work with our teachers of Algebra 1. In the middle school and freshman year, where we have a few different new initiatives that we started a few years ago, but then led into pandemic learning, when we talk about 7th grade pre-algebra, 8th grade Algebra 1. What does a student coming out of the middle school, having had a spring grade 7 pre-algebra like we had last year, and an 8th grade Algebra 1 like we had this year, are we truly bringing kids ready for what it's going to be like in a high school environment? So we're preparing for that. Part of the training is going to be, taking a look at the skills that we need to, solidify and adjust. What we've also done is we put in a high school course. It's not on the slide, but we have a high school course for freshmen, which is a half-year course. It's so if you're a student in 8th grade Algebra 1 and you passed, you're ready to move on to geometry as a freshman, but there's still some Algebra 1 skills that we may not have conquered this past year through pandemic learning. We have a half-year course for students to take advantage of as a freshman, so that they're ready and brushed up on Algebra 1 skills concurrently with their geometry learning, so that they're ready for Algebra 2 as sophomores. So we're trying to be very thoughtful now in terms of what this last year and the marking period have meant for our students, and making sure that we're ready to receive them in September. And a lot of that is supported in the budget with the plans that we have. Star Math is a traditional item for our math, our math budget. It is the series of assessments that we are able to take, gives us data points that we're lucky to have right now. So we're very happy to have things like Star Math and link it and some of those other assessment tools that we traditionally have. We have ST Math, which was a new addition, just recently getting going in grades K through 2. I have K through 3 on there. We haven't made that decision yet. We're still going to wait for feedback and input from students, parents, and staff as we move forward to see if this is something that belongs in the 3rd grade classroom or not. Next slide. Also, so we are in the process of hoping to implement the Knowing Science program first unit, which is the life science unit, this spring, most likely after the April break. Our staff is going to be doing some weekly check-in and training with our science supervisor. We heard from her at the last board meeting about this program. So we are anticipating that the life science unit will be implemented at the end of this school year, and that we can proceed with the next phase and the physical science unit for next school year. It's part of a 3-year phase-in process. Social studies, we are looking to implement new student learning standards. Earlier I mentioned about curriculum writing, summer curriculum writing. There is money in the budget to support having our social studies teachers across the district taking a look at our curriculum, working with our social studies history supervisor, myself, to make sure that we're not just implementing and putting it on paper in the curriculum, but making sure that we are making those adjustments in the classrooms through our resources and the training for our staff. Industrial arts is looking to, update and make sure that all their equipment, that's sort of an annual process that can be pricey at times to maintain a comprehensive high school with all of those industrial arts programs, auto shop, graphic arts, building trades, those types of things. There's equipment that can be pricey in that process, so that's also supported in the budget. Music, art, and family consumer sciences, also in the probably the same, the same situation as social studies, where there is a recent implementation of new standards, and we are in the process of adjusting and looking at those standards and making sure we're doing everything that we can. Last item that I wanted to mention, I want to go back to Linkit. That's something that we support that I didn't have on the first slide. I've spoken quite a bit in this room over the last few years about Linkit, and I just wanted to highlight one benefit of it that we didn't anticipate. Not sure if you're familiar, the governor requested a waiver for the state test. It was denied by the federal government. It was kicked back to the states to determine how best to, honor this assessment goal. In the state of New Jersey, we are able to provide evidence of local assessments that we've completed that match our students against student learning standards. And having Linkit in place is very easy for us to, pull the data we have from Linkit and provide it to the state as evidence of us completing this type of process. If you're a district that doesn't have Linkit, you're scratching your head right now and wondering how are you going to come up with this data or other types of services like that. Luckily we have common assessments in many of our disciplines. So having Linkit is again one more boost for having that. It was a unanticipated success that really helped us out. That's it.
All right, thank you, Mr. Novak. All right, our budget timeline, very similar to in years past. Like I said, we're not quite done yet, but we're pretty close. So today, we got our state aid numbers about 2 weeks ago. We spent most of December meeting with our administrative team, principals, department supervisors, to develop budgets in all different categories. We did have a budget discussion in January. We had a meeting snowed out in February, but we do have ample opportunity between tonight and the public hearing on the budget to discuss the budget additionally. The board will have more opportunities in committee and at another board meeting. So the budget basics, it's split into two parts. Revenues is expenses. Revenues is our money coming in. Expenses is money that we spend, and they have to balance. So every year our revenues go down, but our expenses go up. So that's our fundamental problem, that we have it significantly worse than many other districts in the state, because the new state funding formula called S2 cripples districts in the northwest region of the state in particular and transfers money to other districts that are more well-funded. And this is something that has really affected us the last 4 years. It's a 7-year phase-in, so this is year 4 of 7. There are still 3 more years that we're going to have to absorb state aid cuts. All right. So for our revenues, our tax levy, local taxes, property taxes, whatever you want to call them, they're capped by the state at 2% a year. Our state aid is declining. This year it's just under $2.5 million. To give you an idea, and I'll show you on another slide, but the tax levy is capped to go up by 1.1 million, and the state aid is cut by 2.4 million. So right there you see a drop of 1.3 million, and that's if nothing else goes up. And we know salaries go up every year by a little bit. Health benefits go up, actually by a lot, not by a little. The cost of running our buses goes up, fuel, energy, etc. So that's our problem. And the fund balance that our auditor mentioned before, that is going to be start to decline again. All right. So the yellow line was the S2 funding formula that was proposed 4 years ago, and this is the schedule of cuts it was supposed to be. This is cumulative. This is what we've experienced. So we saw in year 2, it already increased its slope, year 3 and year 4. So where does this project out in the next 3 years? Probably off the charts somewhere up in this range, it looks like, if you kind of got the line of best fit. So we don't know where it's going to end. We know where we are now, and we know where we were. So if you go back to 2008-9, which is not exactly the olden days, the state was funding 1/4 of our budget. So 1 out of every $4 was funded by the state. This year is going to be 2021-22. It's going to be about 12%, I believe. So it's been cut in half, and it's going to get reduced another couple years. This is actual. This is projected these last couple of years. So if the state gives us less money, the pressure is on local taxpayers to give more money, but they can't because of the cap, which is why we wind up cutting staff every year, okay? So our local tax levy is a cap, not on the overall budget, but the local tax levy. So it's 2% of about 55 million, not 2% of 75 million, which is where we're getting the $1.1 million from. And in this budget, somewhere between 75 and 80% of our budget, it's personnel. It's personnel, so salaries and health benefits. So when people say, just cut supplies, there aren't enough supply. There's not enough supply money in the budget to make up that big gap. You wind up cutting personnel. This board and the board that precedes it have done a great job keeping local taxes in check. The 10-year average increase is just about 1.5% a year over the last 10 years. So this isn't just a 1 or 2 year trend, this is a 10-year trend. So the taxpayers in this community have benefited from this. In a lot of other communities, this number is about 2.5%. So our preliminary budget, the numbers here, and you can see the reduction in the general fund here. So the tax levy goes up 2%. But the overall budget is down 1.41%. These are the revenues, and you can see the large cut in the first line right here. We have another large cut here, but this is Ms. Francisco, this is the money from the turf field at the township portion, correct? Restricted miscellaneous?
From last year.
Yeah, from last year. So that's why you see a large reduction here to 0. But the big number is the state aid, and that's something, we're struggling with right now. Our expenses, because our revenues are down, our expenses have to balance our revenues, which is why we cut in pretty much every area on our budget. Some small increases in transportation, co-curricular activities as well, but again, those are smaller budget lines anyway. And the tax levy impact on the average home for this year, it should be the average home is $242,300. That has not changed since last year. The average tax increase is $126, which comes out to about $10.50 per month increase over last year's taxes for the median home. If your home is assessed at more than that, we'll be paying more than this. If it's assessed less than that, you'll be paying less. All right, and again, the median is the middlemost. So half the community is assessed at more than that number, and half is assessed at less than that number. And it doesn't mean that's what your house is worth, it's just that's what it's assessed at. So we do get that from the township. Capital projects, we think it's important to continually fund these projects year after year, because if you get caught behind in your capital maintenance plans, you never catch up. So we do have a antiquated telephone system now. We are budgeting for an upgrade to that district-wide, which is more than just buying new phones, it's cabling and wiring. We have some continued abatement, asbestos abatement at Macoupin. We're going to pave the perimeter of the transportation parking lot, which will be right outside the fence over there. We have some tile replacements at the high school and Marshall Hill as well. So proposed cuts, we are cutting in all these areas on top. Professional development, athletics, supplies, clubs. We have a proposed cut of 1 administrative position, 1 elementary media specialist. At the high school, 3 positions, art, social studies, and a building aide. Special education teacher, pending some IEP meetings, but that should be one position. And district-wide, a secretarial position and a music position. So we're trying to spread these cuts out, and many of these are through attrition. Somebody retires, we don't rehire in that position. So you wouldn't necessarily see a person losing their job, but you would just see us not rehire where somebody retired or resigned. So we try to spread it out so no one school or no one level has all the cuts. All right, and we do consider what we did cut last year or the year before. This way it's not consecutive years for all, one small school. All right. So what does the future look like? Again, this declining state aid is going to be another 3 years beyond this year, which will affect our fund balance, which is a revenue stream in our budget. Our expenses go up every year: salaries, benefits, special education, our building maintenance, etc., which puts pressure on local taxes, and it does hurt our ability to fund capital reserve and maintenance accounts. We just heard from the auditor, and he mentioned those are accounts in the recapitulation of balances, which we do have money in every year. And to make these cuts for next couple of years, we'll probably see additional staffing and program reductions. So the next steps, we're going to continue to refine our budget estimates. Between now and April 27th, we should have a little bit better idea of what those numbers are going to look like. And we do have a couple meetings for the board we have 2 committee meetings, one in March, one in April, as well as a full board meeting in April, and then the public hearing. So there's ample opportunity for the board to ask questions, get involved, make suggestions, etc. Okay? Any board members have any questions on the preliminary budget? Debbie?
Mr. Novak, if this question's for you, I just want to make sure I understood this correctly. Because of LinkedIn, our students do not have to get tested because they're using the information from the assessments that are in LinkedIn, so the kids do not have to go through the process to meet the federal requirements, correct?
Right. Link It is our program. The state of New Jersey chose to not administer an assessment, but to do a spring assessment upload. So that districts were put on notice that they had to provide evidence that we have tested our students against the New Jersey Student Learning Standards, which is similar to what NJSLA would do. So Link It does that. So in our growth with using Link It, we've been bringing that in as a tool to help us improve on the state assessment and to help our teachers identify, where our students are meeting the standards and, where the gaps are, and to help our programs and that sort of thing.
Right.
In this situation, we got lucky, and that we have assessment that our kids already took that meets all the state criteria.
And we're done.
So we're done. Right.
Beautiful. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Alex, can you explain the tax levy for the past 3 or 4 years, like what our percentage was? I'm sorry.
I'd have to, open the PowerPoint. It looks like it's 2% here, just over 2%, 2%, and this is about 2.5%. I'd have to open up the PowerPoint to see the notes, but it's right around there. This is 3%, 2%, 1%. It's not that visible, but it's
2.5% though, we had a leftover from one tap year to the next, right, Barbara?
Correct.
When we did it that year?
Yeah, because there was no increase for a period of time.
Yeah.
So these are 0.2 years of zero. So you're able to increase it by more than 2% if you were under 2% the year prior.
Right, you know,
There were also some adjustments that were able to be in with health insurance, but they pretty much eliminated any adjustments. We've never been fortunate enough to have an enrollment adjustment because we've never, increased our enrollment from one year to the next. So we've had situations where we've been able to adjust from our 2% cap because of our health insurance costs. In the past.
I think Terry had a question.
Terry? Oh, wait, Ray, and then you, Terry, okay, because Ray had his hand up.
So, I have 7, but no, I'm kidding. But it is twofold. One is, I think that the DSIP program actually, I think, was a real help for us, but are you still refining numbers, especially when you look at fuel costs for next year for transportation? Because it seems like we're seeing some of those things creep up.
Yeah, we have a lot of unknowns right now. I've said in the past that, you're talking about something that's going to have, it's not going to come to fruition for 18 months.
Right.
So a lot of the numbers that were put in here were put in December. Look how much your gasoline prices have gone up in the last 3 weeks.
Yep.
So the numbers in here are based upon what we were paying for gasoline in November and December. Our liability insurance has gone up significantly, and we're still in the process. Some of the things that they're asking us, because we have to complete applications and questionnaires, and this is the first time, of course, because of COVID, we now have a liability that the insurance carriers are assessing, and they're asking questions on what your protocols are. So there's just so many unknowns. And we're also going into negotiations. For the negotiations team, we've gotten an inquiry. We need to come up with dates to begin negotiations for 4 major bargaining groups. So yes, we're always looking to be able to refine. I mean, from February to this month, I've been in contact with our risk manager for health insurance. And because of COVID, surprisingly, health carriers are pretty flush with money because of the inability for doctors to see patients and elective surgeries being taken off as the picture. So we think we'll be safe with an 8% adjustment from our prior year. But again, it's a moving target. I mean, gasoline may double before September.
Right.
We don't know. One of the other things that we're experiencing, and if you look at the chart with that kind of breaks out the different areas, you see the transportation budget has gone up. When I first got here, we had about 7 or 8 drivers that would drive our out-of-district special education students to their schools. We only have 2 now. So the students that still have to be sent out of district because we can't accommodate them here, we have to go out to bid for those routes. We can't provide those routes ourselves, and it always costs us more money than we have to go out to bid. So there's a lot of things going on.
So you mentioned that 8%. The other thing is that I think a lot of people don't realize, I think you said that PCTI was kind enough to reduce the number of students that they are thinking that they're going to take from West Milford to attend their school. But we, besides the county, right, giving them money, and the state, Alex, with PCTI, did they get more money or did they get a reduction?
They did not get a reduction. They got an extra 11 million
Okay, so 11 million.
on top of,
Historical question.
all right.
Yeah. So they got an extra 11 million. What do we pay per student to PCTI? Do you know that off the top of your head?
11,364.
How much?
11,364. And this year's budget, we also have 2 students that are going to a charter school. So we have to pay $44,402 for the 2 students that are attending the charter.
Is that per student or the total?
That's for the 2 students.
That's for the 2 students.
So it's $22,201. And if our per pupil cost was $22,000, you'd hear about it.
And are the teachers at PCTI, are they in school now?
They keep going in and out.
So the students.
I
Teachers
don't
are
think
not
that
there,
the
though, right?
teachers are there.
They are there?
They're back, yeah,
They're back in?
It varies.
So we're sending them $1 million besides the 11 million that you said that they're getting from the state. I mean, I just encourage the people of West Milford to write, call, email, the freeholders, the
I think
state
they should write
congressmen.
Sweeney,
Right.
I
So,
have, and it's what
I know we've done that
governor.
on behalf of the people of the
The
township.
frustration is that we can't, you know, Mr. Furley talked about the ASSA. We can't count those students in our ASSA. So we get no state funding for the students that we have to pay tuition for. So that's the biggest,
So we have to pay for them. We have to pay tuition for them.
And then
But
you
there,
have to-
we don't get any reimbursement for that. But we're paying the tuition for them and PCCI is getting reimbursed for them.
So, I mean, I think Alex just pointed out the preliminary budget slide with the local tax levy. Can you just pull that up? That was it.
so the tax levy is going to
Go back,
PCCI.
one more. No, forward.
Here?
One more. Good. So we are paying about that 2%.
Yeah.
PCTI, yes, they got $11 million. Like,
Extra,
don't get-
not total, extra.
They're extra,
Right,
on top of what they got last year.
correct.
And we're paying county taxes on top of that.
So our 2%, what they're getting in addition to the money that they got, plus the $11 million.
Correct.
I just want to make sure everybody understands that.
Oh, yeah.
That is where we are.
Terry, I think you had a question?
I have some concern about this budget, and they're really educational, and I think we have to start considering some of the things that are in this budget that are going to hurt our kids. First of all, a media specialist is somebody who is a resource for children and teachers. And I don't think it's a good idea that that position is being eliminated while you're adding an administrator. I know you're getting rid of two and you're talking about adding an administrator, and yet when our science supervisor spoke before us, she said that math and science are connected. I would like to see the supervisor still restructured, and I would like to see that supervisor position replaced with the social worker. Because when our kids come back full-time, I want to make sure that they are taken care of emotionally, physically, and academically. And I don't think that's going to happen unless we have extra help. The other thing that I'm concerned about is that you say that you're eliminating a secretary, but yet in the budget, there's a half a position at the board office. There are 941 students at the high school. When I started teaching in West Milford, there were 1,600 kids. There were no computers. There were 5 counselors. They did everything. Today, there's access to computers. I don't understand why we're not looking at a reconstruction of guidance. The other thing is, I understand the science budget because we're putting in a new program, but the social studies budget is really, really exorbitant, and I don't see any explanation for that. And finally, Alex, you're not going to like me for this, but superintendent's caps have been removed, so I don't understand why we're still budgeting for merit pay. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
I do want to just bring one thing up. No one is being riffed, right, at this point in time.
Right now, it's through attrition. We're planning on doing it through attrition.
Right.
Obviously, as we get closer to,
Well, we have to know
yeah, I
before
mean,
the budget, right?
well, yeah, we'll know more by April for sure. I mean, special education, we typically have some movement there, but we do have some IEP meetings to get through. There could be a riff. We just have a long-term sub. That could be a riff there. But again, it could be a retirement between now and June, which eliminates the need for that. But other than these other positions, there should not be a cut per se. It'll just be a retirement or a resignation that's not hired. We don't hire for it.
And I do want to tack on Terry on the social worker, because I think that we don't really foresee, I don't know that we can know what's going to happen. You know, the sooner our kids come back in the building, I think we might start to see the social and emotional issues that we're going to have to deal with come September. But I think that's got to be something that has to be in the back of our, you know, like as one of our fall 2 things that we may really need. I completely agree with her on that.
Yeah.
I do have a question, Dan, about the Start Strong test that we took. Is that able to be used at least for some of these evaluations for the kids?
I don't know if that's valid, but we don't need it.
Okay.
We don't need it because we have Lincoln.
So
Okay.
you can put it on the request that came from the governor.
Right.
And there's 71 school districts that did it.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think that's also another page in our handbook here that we have, right, in our playbook that we didn't,
Yeah,
that other people didn't use.
we're
So-
very comfortable with how we're able to meet that requirement.
Good.
Dan, I just have a question about using Lincoln as an assessment artifact. I'm just worried that these results are going to be skewed because our kids haven't really had the opportunity to have the full educational experience in the past year. And what happens if they come back and they're really low? What happens with the state and the federal government? What are the
So
consequences?
I don't know what sort of reporting they're going to do on the uploads that the district provides. I mean, they can't, in my opinion, like I said, I don't know for sure, they can't fairly judge district against district. If we're supplying them with a Lincoln assessment, which is a standards-based assessment, and another district who doesn't have Lincoln is creating some sort of local common assessment that they're going to have to do after the fact, I don't see how the state can do that. I'm
Did they
pretty.
punish us? Because, I mean, they've already,
Well, they punish us every year when they cut our state aid, so.
Yeah, I don't anticipate, they're not using it for, teacher evaluation. They're not using it for a number of other measures.
and they're not using it for further reduction in state aid?
I don't anticipate that.
Yeah, that's more based on enrollment. I don't believe it'll have any effect on that. I think they're looking at that as 2 separate. They didn't want to do tests this year. They applied for a waiver. It was denied. So then they had to come up with something. And this is what they came up with. It's the first time they've ever done it this way. So we'll see what happens in the fall with this, with the reporting. Because we always report out on testing, spring testing in like October. So we'll wait and see. It's just hard to say. I don't think anybody has an answer right now, but we're ahead of the game because we have standards-based assessments, and not every place does. So we can say what a second grader knows in math compared to a standard, as opposed to just saying what do they know in general. So
Is it a national standard or a state standard
for what?
for comparing?
I believe they're going to use the New Jersey Student Learning Standards. So they're not that dissimilar from New York, Connecticut, Massachusetts, the state standards. Every state has their own standards, but if you look at them side by side, they're not that different. But technically, it's a state standard.
Thank you. I have a couple of things. The first is going back to what Ray was saying about PCTI. I read an article today, and it's in the news all over. I happen to read it on something someone said to me on patch.com. Senate President Steve Sweeney was saying how he'd like to have K-12 county-wide school districts. So, and he's been saying that a long time, and it's in the news again today with an entire list of school districts that he would like to eliminate. I was pleased to see that we're not on his list yet, however, it feels like we
Yet.
are.
Yet.
Yeah, I said yes, but it feels like we are when we do compare numbers. And so, I absolutely, I second what, my co-trustees have said here, and that our community needs to be involved. Because if you want local schools, and, if we were here tonight talking about closing one of our 6 elementary schools, we'd have people out the door, But, here we have, our, Senator Sweeney saying that he wants to close districts, and I don't see anybody coming out, and I don't know of anyone writing letters, and I'm not seeing it on Facebook Moms, so I think people need to know that. They need to know where the money's going. It's going countywide. It's been stated by our people, by our governor's office and all of them that that's what they'd like to do. So to keep our home schools, we need to step up and people need to start.
Yeah, I think the ultimate goal is for them to have 21 school districts.
Right.
One per county. So you'd have Passaic County as one, they don't start off that way. They start off with, we're going to consolidate just these school districts. And your district's not on the list. And then we're going to consolidate these school districts. And that school's on the list, So overall, though, I think they want to condense it into countywide school systems.
Right. So that was my first thing. Dan, you mentioned a half-year course. In algebra that goes along, concurrent with geometry. Are there other half-year math courses so that our high school students can use that as one of their courses towards graduation?
Are there other half-year courses
Yeah.
apart from this?
Yes.
No.
Okay. So it's kind of like a remedial math that they're getting credit for, but then let's say junior year, there's not a half-year course to make up their 3 years of math.
Right, no, so they'll still take a math course. They're going to take geometry. So this is for students who...
I totally understand. I'm just saying, to fulfill a math requirement, that isn't considered for graduation.
No.
Okay. Do you know the current, I know this is do you know the current grade, the current credits for high school students to graduate at West Milford High School?
127.
Thank you. And we received a letter that I was so happy to see that you're looking into adding more concurrent enrollment courses. And it did say that it would come with a cost. And I don't know who to direct the question to, but because it kind of is everyone. Why would concurrent enrollment, why would there be an anticipated cost?
The anticipated cost is the support of your supervisory staff.
Can you explain that? I'm sorry.
That's the team that's doing the research, reaching out with me to the community colleges, to the
So
local
you're actually
universities.
saying that it would not be within their current job, that you would stipend them to do something?
No, not stipend. It's within their current job. Supervisors are in the budget. So it's not a new item in the budget. You are budgeting for a supervisory staff. And the ability for us to compete with a PCTI requires this administrative team that we can be able to offer concurrent enrollment, dual enrollment, more of those types of things.
Yeah.
We have the courses. We compete very well with PCTI, but they're able to tout these little things called micro-credentials.
Yeah.
So we are very interested in being able to, put that in our cap as well, because as Mr. Guarino made a big point about, our local taxes, which I am also a taxpayer, our local tax increase is going to a school that's not here. So I think it's in our best interest to support a robust, organized administrative staff. That this isn't the work of a classroom teacher or a secretary or a vice principal or a principal. These are things that really help us to be able to put that mark out there that we're competing and that we're going to keep our kids from going to PCTI or other, and as Barbara said, charter schools now.
Is it all right if we take keep the questions, but maybe let's put the lights on and just...
So just to paraphrase, I heard you say that looking into concurrent enrollment and upping our curriculum to include that, which I've been talking about, and so
We have quite a few.
yeah. And so when we say that budget considerations have been made to further explore concurrent enrollment, it's with keeping the...
Personnel.
Thank you.
Can I just also jump on the social worker piece, because I know, just kind of going back, we didn't, sorry about that up. I just want to mention that, the two kind of pieces. The one thing I want to make sure that the board is aware is that this budget does does sustain our current mental health professionals, which I think is a really big and important piece because, and I know that we talked about this with the board last year as well, that at the elementary level, we have 8 mental health providers. The middle school, we still would have the 5 mental health providers, and the high school, we would still have 11. So it does still sustain those people. What I think has happened, and we talked about this at the Ed Committee, is we needed to do an audit of what we're currently doing with our providers and how can we be better at reaching more kids with the staffing that we have. So I want you to know that I'm confident that who we have in the budget, if we can keep them in, we will be able to accomplish that, because you're right, the pandemic, our teams have been meeting every Wednesday, there's going to be a need. The other thing that Barbara just brought to my attention again last week is that there's an extra, don't quote me on it, but about $42,000 or so that I can put towards mental health support, which we plan to use in the next year's budget. So what we may do is hire someone to provide some additional groups to help supplement some of the deficit that we may have with the pandemic. So I just wanted to kind of make sure that everybody knows all of that information. And the last thing, and then Courtney will go to you, is that when you talk about mental health, you need to have a multi-layered approach. It's not just your social workers, and you know this, Ms. Romeo, that can reach all of the kids, right? It has to go through the teaching staff. You guys made a district goal about supporting teachers and students. We're trying to make this bigger so that it reaches more students, because one social worker may have one kind of caseload. Even if you add another one, you're not going to be able to reach as many students as if we can build it into what we do as a district. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, as an educator myself, I think I'm starting to see the unraveling happen of children, and I think that they are done with this. They are done with it all. We all are. And I just would definitely highlight doing professional development with teachers. It is a district goal. I think it needs to come down to the teacher's level to be able to spend time with the little people, especially in the elementary level, to teach them how to engage socially again, because they are not going to know how.
And the next board meeting, we'll be able to give you an update on the March 18th professional development for staff and the SEL day, which we plan to do with the district-wide, which is March 25th. Okay. So we'll give you another update.
I do remember you telling us that there is, but that's a great point that you bring up, Courtney. And Liz, I've had conversation, and I think a few of us have, with Liz about that, and that she is working on the professional development end of that because of exactly what you were saying.
Yeah, so our next professional development opportunity is going to be dedicated exclusively to social and emotional learning. I think that is March 18th. So we're in a planning process for that, and we're putting the academics aside for the day, and we're focusing on SEL. It'll look different for K as opposed to high school, but we know it's important, and we probably don't even know the depth of the problems yet, but we'll start to find out as we bring more and more students back, which reminds me, we've been working on the return to school plan. We sent a survey out a few weeks ago, first at the K-5 level, then at the 6-12 level. So we did send a non-binding survey just to see what our stakeholders believed and felt about our return to school plan. So we know where we were last March, almost a year to the day, where it was 100% out of school, buildings were shut down, it was an actual stay at home, and we're looking to get back to normal where every student is in school every day. So we're going to be moving further along that continuum. I'll have an announcement out probably Wednesday or Thursday of this week, which should explain in a little bit greater detail. We're still working out, fleshing out some of the finer points in that letter, but we'll be communicating with our staff and our parents this week with some additional information about the return to school. So the ultimate goal for September is to have everybody back in our buildings. We don't believe there's going to be a 100% virtual option for next school year like there is now. So families were able to select that option this year. I don't believe, it hasn't been decided yet, but I don't believe that it will be there for September. So that's sort of the step we're going to announce this week will get us further towards that goal. Like I said, we just have to flesh out a couple of the details, and we'll have some more information out to the board, to the staff, and to the community this week.
Any other questions on the budget? Kate?
I know that the updated budget includes high school security cameras. And I want to know like where that line item is, and is it in the high school budget? I'm curious how much they're budgeting for the high school security cameras.
For the high school what?
Security cameras.
It's I believe it's $100,000.
Okay, I just couldn't find it, and I wasn't sure where to
It's not
look.
in there anymore. If you look at the memo,
Yeah.
It was taken out.
it said that
Thank you.
it's been removed because we're going to use some additional funding we received.
That's funding that we got this year, so it's not going to fall into the budget for next year.
The project will get done, it just won't be out of next year's budget.
Is there any other questions? If not, time to open up public comment?
Yes, I'm finished, thank you.
Okay, public comment. This portion of the meeting is open to members of the public for the purpose of addressing resolutions on this agenda only. Members of the public who have requested to speak prior to the meeting will be recognized by the chair first. Each speaker will be given 5 minutes for a period of 30 minutes, and then time permitting other public comment limited to 5 minutes per speaker will be allowed until the 30-minute time period transpires. All members of the public speaking during the public comment period are asked to address topics listed in the agenda. All speakers are asked to sign the register provided and to give their full name, spell their last name, group affiliation if appropriate, and provide their address. Issues raised by members of the public may or may not be responded to by the board. All comments will be considered, and a response will be forthcoming if and when appropriate. The board has asked that the members of the public be courteous and respectful of the rights of other individuals when speaking. Specifically, comments regarding students and employees of the board are discouraged. The board and the administration will not respond to them. Students and employees have specific legal rights afforded to them by the laws of New Jersey. The board is not responsible and is not liable for any comments made by members of the public. Members of the public should consider their comments in the light of the legal rights of those affected or identified in their comments. Members of the public are reminded that they are legally responsible and liable for their comments. Anyone wishing to speak under public comment?
Good evening. Jessica Sprague, S-P-R-A-G-U-E, 1 Burma Court, West Milford. I first want to thank Dr. Animo.
Can you speak into the
Sure.
mic, Jessica, just so
Can
that
you hear me?
Yeah, that's
Is that better?
great. Yeah.
I first want to thank Dr. Anemone for doing everything he has been able to do this entire year to keep our schools open. Where we see other districts throughout the state closing, we've stayed open except for a brief period for the high school, and I think this has been extremely beneficial to our children. I want to mention what Mr. Novak said about 6th grade and bringing up the curriculum. I think this year has been very difficult for the 6th grade. Going into MACPEN, and even the 7th grade, going in and not getting the full experience. I think it is so extremely important that these kids be able to go back to school full-time before the end of the year to get the true MACPEN experience, because they really haven't gotten it yet, right? They've only been given a limited amount of time. There's half their friends that they don't see because they're in another cohort. We need to get these kids back sooner rather than later. I know there are certain districts that are waiting till after spring break. I think that's too long. I don't see any reason to keep these kids out any longer than they've been. Let's bring them back and bring them back quickly. I do also want to address the budget. You all may recall, our budget did very well an administration prior to this. We know that elections have consequences. You can do all the letter writing you want. It's not going to get you very far. It's your vote that matters, and we've got to get the right people in our state government as well as our local government to make sure that our schools get the funding that they need and that we don't lose our schools to some county-wide program. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak?
Seeing none, like to close public comments.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, education. Oh, wait, I'm sorry, I missed we need a motion to adopt the agenda. Is anything changed on the agenda? Okay. We need a motion to adopt the agenda.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
Dave? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Education, Mrs. Dwyer.
I'd like to move items 1 and 2 for approval.
Second.
Any discussion? Ray?
And to Jackie, the incoming calendar academy.
Yeah, yes.
Really good discussion the last couple of years.
I was going to say the same thing. Thank
Yeah,
you.
that's why we moved that up to tonight, so they could start tomorrow, rather than 2 weeks from tomorrow.
We have an incoming student at Highlander Academy from out of district.
Yeah, we're very excited to kind of start that partnership, and now the area wasn't aware of our program, so I think that'll be great that now that area is aware that we do have this program.
And I think it's great you moved it up tonight.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Start
Yes. Any other discussion? If not, roll call, Mrs. Francisco?
Dwyer.
Yes.
Mrs. Stevenson. Mr. Guarino.
Yes.
Ms. Ovchinsky.
Yeah.
Ms. O'Brien.
Yes.
Mr. Conklin.
Yes.
Mrs. Romeo.
Yes.
Mr. Stillman.
Yes.
Mrs. Van Dyke.
Yes. Mrs. Stevenson, Personnel, Student Affairs?
I'd like to make a motion to remove items 1 through 9 and just personnel and student affairs.
Second.
Any discussion? If not, roll call, Mrs. Francisco?
Mrs. Stevenson.
Yes.
Mrs. Romeo.
Yes.
Mrs. O'Brien.
Yes.
Mr. Conklin.
Yes.
Mr. Ovchinsky.
Yeah.
Mr. Guarino.
Yes.
Mr. Stillman.
Yes.
Mrs. Dwyer.
Yes.
Mrs. Van Dyke.
Yes. Operations and Finance, Mr. Ovchinsky?
I'd like to move item 1 for approval.
Second.
Any discussion? Any discussion? If not, roll call?
I'm a big
Mr.
fly.
Ovchinsky.
Yeah.
Mr. Guarino.
Yes.
You could slip one
Stevenson.
anytime.
Yes. Mrs. Romeo.
Yes.
Ms. O'Brien.
Yes.
Mrs. Dwyer.
Yes.
Mr. Conklin.
Yes.
Mr. Stillman.
Yes.
Mrs. Van Dyke.
Yes.
I'd like to move item 2 for approval.
Second.
Yeah, the budget line 620, what's the 400?
All right, so any discussion, you have a question on the budget, Mike?
Moving budget line 620, withdrawal from capital, what was that?
Capital reserve. So that's money that we're using it for the abatements for the floors. There's certain things in our long-range facility plan that we can use capital reserve money for.
Right, so when we were talking about the fields, that's totally up there.
And at this point in time, it is. But that would be a place that in the future you can use that money to withdraw. If we were going to address the field now, we would have to do the engineering study. I think it would not make any sense for this district to appropriate $1 million to do a field without doing an engineering study to determine whether or not you can actually do what you want to do. And so I had initially put in $106,000 just for the engineering study
That's the turf.
to determine whether or not we could put a second turf field in.
Right, but if you scratch that, what about just doing updates to the fields that we have?
Well, we couldn't use capital reserve money for that at this point in time. We would have to amend our long-range facility plan to include a turf field in our long-range facility plan. So that's a process. We would have to send it down to the Department of Education. It would have to be approved. But using capital reserve, the board can always determine to do that. You don't need to wait for the budget to do that. So you can discuss it a little further. We have extra money in June, we can make a bigger deposit in the capital reserve. And come June, you could say, okay, let's submit the paperwork to the state so that we can do this project. And then you could appropriate capital reserve money to do the engineering study, and if it's successful, then to do the field. So you don't have to wait until next April to do it. You can do it, but it's going to be outside the budget process.
But it could be something that we keep on the operations and finance, right, where we will...
Yeah, I mean, I could explain it more next week so that you have a better understanding.
I think that would be appropriate.
Don't worry about turf fields, they just want to update the disasters that we have.
And that's something that we can discuss in operations.
Well, we can discuss in operation finance next week, because don't forget, this budget can be amended.
Right.
Yes. Because this is just our preliminary budget. I mean, there's not a whole lot to get rid of, unfortunately, but any other discussion? If not, roll call.
Mr. Oshinsky.
Yeah.
Mrs. Stevenson. Yes. Mrs. Romeo.
Yes.
Mr. Guarino.
Yes.
Ms. O'Brien.
Yes.
Mr. Stillman.
Yes.
Mrs. Dwyer.
Yes.
Mr. Conkle.
Yes.
Mrs. Van Dyke.
Yes. Back to public comment. Hi, Rena. This public comment, this portion of the meeting is open to members of the public having a legitimate interest in the actions of the board for the purpose of addressing any subject matter pertinent to and/or directly related to the operations of the West Milford Public School District. Members of the public who have requested to speak prior to the meeting will be recognized by the chair first. Each speaker will be given 5 minutes for a period of 30 minutes, then time permitting, other public comment limited to 5 minutes per speaker will be allowed until the 30-minute time period transpires. All speakers are asked to sign the register provided and give their full name, spell their last name, group affiliation, if appropriate, and provide their address. Issues raised by members of the public may or may not be responded to by the board. All comments will be considered and a response will be forthcoming if and when appropriate. The board asks that the members of the public be courteous and respectful of the rights of other individuals when speaking. Specifically, comments regarding students and employees of the board are discouraged, and the board and the administration will not respond to them. Students and employees have specific legal rights afforded to them by the laws of New Jersey. The board is not responsible and is not liable for any comments made by members of the public. Members of the public should consider their comments in light of the legal rights of those affected or identified in their comments. Members of the public are reminded that they are legally responsible and liable for their comments. Anyone wishing to speak? If not, I need a second. Ray? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We need executive session? Okay. So I need someone to make a motion for executive session and read for legal. Will we be adjourning from there, or do we have to?
I don't think any action's being taken, right?
Okay. All right, go ahead. Who was making the motion? Kate, go ahead.
8:40 p.m., so we're going to make a motion to go into executive session for the purpose of discussing current litigation matters and matters of attorney-client privilege. The executive session minutes will not be released until such time as the privilege or confidentiality is no longer applicable.
Second.
And we will adjourn from executive session? No action will be taken, okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.